Hi, everyone. This is Tracy from the Fairborn branch of the Greene County Public Library. Here today with some genealogy basics and here to talk to you about different methods of organization. Now, this sounds a little overwhelming and it can get kind of confusing, so we're going to try to break it down and give you guys some ideas of what you can do, how you can do it, and kinds of things you need to be keeping track of with your genealogy research. Because we all know very quickly this gets very out of hand. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you and we will get started. Now, please remember, I'm going to be jumping around quite a bit in the slideshow, so I can show you what I'm talking about and hopefully it'll make a little more sense because some of the stuff gets a little confusing and it's hard to understand if you can't actually see what we're talking about. So just bear with me while I jump around. We'll get through it. Okay, here we go. All right. So basic methods for genealogy organization. Now, there's two things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about your basics, the holder, the container for your stuff, and the ways you organize it within the container. So I'm probably going to refer to stuff as boxes or binders and folders. But understand that means like different levels, different sections. I think you guys will understand as we get going. So the first type that we talk about is your binder method for organization. You have file folders and you have digital. And these are the three main ways people keep track of all of the goodies that you find and all of your notes and all of your research, your pedigree charts, your family group sheets, the obituaries, the certificates, all of that good stuff. It's what holds it all together. Like I said, there's three main types. And then there's a way to organize within that binder or that file folder or that digital media. So there's geographic. That's the first way to organize things based on location. So you would put your information regarding people in, we're working with Johnson County in this case, Johnson County or McGolphin County, or even smaller to the towns like Flat Gap or Red Bush or Bull Springs, that type of thing. Another way to do it is by surname. So you would put all of your Blanton stuff, all of your Fairchild stuff in different files. Those are the families we're working with. You would do it by married couple or family. So you would have husband and wife and their information. Or you can organize it by documents and resources, such as all of your census records together, all of your birth certificates together, all of your obituaries together. And then there's ways to further organize that by going into birth certificates or death certificates from this area. Or if you're in geography, after you have your geography folder for your county, you'd put your birth certificates, your marriage license, so it wasn't all jumbled up. So there's plenty of ways to get very detailed, to get very specific. The point of this is so you can find your information when you want it or when you need it. So you're going and doing your research, you're like, oh my goodness, who was Uncle Tom married to? I can't find his birth certificate or his marriage license. You'll know where to look for it. You'll know, do I have it? Do I not have it? How do I find it? Where is it? All right, so the first method we have is binders. Now understand, these are going to grow as you work on your research. Just like when you started, you had a nice little notebook and a little folder, and very quickly that expanded into a giant duffel bag full of papers. Your binders will do the same thing. You need to have some kind of divider sheet. Those can either be different colored pieces of paper, they can be tabs like you see here, they can be pieces of washi tape, whatever you need to understand that you have a different section. I put sheet protectors on here. You don't need these, but I find them very helpful, especially when I find like original clippings from newspapers, or I have wedding invitations, wedding announcements. It gives me someplace to put those so I don't lose them. And it also keeps your papers nice and neat. And it makes it easy to just pull it out and change what you need to. But if you don't want to use hole punchers or sleeve protectors, go ahead and get a hole punch and you just hole punch everything. Most of the stuff now that I have is not original copies, so I'm not too worried about punching holes in it. But like I said, with an original document, I am a little more careful and want to put those in a sheet protector, but it's totally up to you how you want to do this. Okay, for file folders, the file folder method. You obviously need file folders, something to hold them in, and color coding. Now you can kind of see here that they have these color-coded folders in green, purple, red, and blue. I'm not quite sure how they do this, but I'll explain how I do it later. But it kind of keeps your families separated. So this may be mom's mom, mom's dad, dad's dad, dad's mom's family. And then it's divided by surnames. And then you can see down in here, it looks like they have family files for each one. However you're doing it, if you're doing it by state and then county and then organize it, whatever you're doing, you just need to understand your method. I suggest putting on the box that's holding them a key so you can remember what's in what folder, because you will come back to this and forget what you've done. Digital, you'll need access to a computer. You'll need access to flash drives, because when you're researching, like if you come here to the library, you find some good stuff, you save it. You need to be able to get it back and forth. I suggest you have multiple, because you never know when one is going to crash, die, get washed, get lost. It's best to have multiple backups. And you need to have access to a scanner for those original documents. If you can't get a scanner, come into the library. We have stuff like that. You can use your phone to take pictures and then upload them to your computer, but something like that. Now, as we're talking, I'm going to be talking about the main folder and then subfolders. This is what I'm talking about, different levels. And if we go back here, you can see here are different levels as well. Okay. So let's now we've talked about our ways to organize, how we're going to store our stuff. Let's talk about ways to organize it within that storage. The first method we have up is called the geographic method for organization. This is where you store your documents by surname and location and then subdivide it. Sounds like a lot, but it's not too bad. So you would have a section in your binder or a big folder, the big blue folder, or a folder in your flash drive for Sam Blanton from Redbush in Johnson County, Kentucky. Inside that folder, you would put birth certificates relating to him and his family, death certificates, newspapers, pictures. And by his family, I mean spouse, children, however you have it divided. I typically do spouse and children. And then you would have a different folder or a different colored section or different, however you're doing it, for one for Sam, one for Claudie, one from Helen, one from Tom. Now you can do this based on where they were born, where they spent most of their life, where they passed away. It's totally up to you. Just make sure you're consistent with it. That's why I said put the little cheat sheet in the front of whatever you're doing to remind you how you did it. So this is one method. I don't use this one a whole lot because my family all tends to stay in the same place forever. It took me quite a bit of time to find people from two different places with different names. So something to think about when you're doing this. How is your family work? Are they all from the same area? Did they all have the same names? You may want to try a different method. But if your family moves around a whole lot and you have Aunt Joanne from Colorado, you have your mom is from Ohio, your dad's from Kentucky, this method may work out perfectly for you. Next up, we have surname organization. This is where you would have a section in your notebook or a separate notebook for each family. We'll go with that idea, or a folder or a box for your family. So a box for the Blantons, or a binder for the Blantons. And then each section, you would have all of your census records. So any census record you found that pertains to a Blanton, you would put in there. Any obituary you found relating to a Blanton, you would put in there. Death certificates, you get the idea. And then you would move to a different box, a different binder for your next family, Fairchild, and you would do the same thing. That way, if you knew you were working on your Blanton family, you could go right, and I need census information, I'd go right to my census folder, pull that out and be able to find the information regarding that specific Blanton. Sorry about that. Next up, this is the method I use most, married couple or family group sheets. So I have a binder set up for each family. So we're going to deal with the Blantons here first. So I have a binder or a box specifically for them. Then underneath that, I would have I use a binder method. So I would have a tab for Sam Blanton. So I'd start at the bottom, Sam. And then I would have the next section or the next subfolder for Claudie, his son. Then I would have a one for his daughters and just keep moving down like that. And now everything that goes in the Sam Blanton folder would be anything pertaining to him. His birth certificate, his marriage license, obituaries, land records, anything like that had to do with Sam or his children would go there. Then once I found out the child got married, like Claudie, I would break Claudie's family out, make it the next subfolder down, next tab, whichever you're using, and have all of Claudie's information. Take his birth certificate out of Sam's folder, put it in his own folder, and again, go through everything with him and his children until his children got married. And then if you notice down here, I have Amanda. I took her information out. I left her on the family group sheets and all that, but I actually took her information, her birth certificate, things like that, and I put it in her own folder with her and her husband and his family because she was no longer a Blanton. She got married, her name changed. So she went with her husband into his family and has their information. Now, if we go back up here, Sam had another son named Grover. He was never married, so I left all of Grover's information with Sam. He did move out, lived on his own, all that kind of stuff, but he never got married, so I don't have a family group sheet for him. I didn't give him a folder, and he just kept all those information with Sam. And then Tom, he had his own folder, just like Claudie, and moved on. Now you see, I have some of these bolded and some of these not. The bolded ones are the bloodline. That's how my family goes through. That way I could tell which ones, because when you get back to your greats, you can't tell who's who anymore, which one's yours, which one's a sibling. I just bolded them to make it easier. And if you look here, so Mandy and Rui were on this level. The next subfolder up had Claudie and then all of Tom's stuff. And then we go back up and you have Sam. He's back on this level. Let me see. So here, if I was doing it this way, I would have Blanton. I would have Sam, Helen, all of their siblings. Then I would have his children, Claudie, Tom, all of them. That's the second generation. And the third generation, I would have Mandy and Rui here. So each generation is a tab over in the family. I get to the end, I just start back over again because they're far enough apart. That's one way to do that. The other is the binder. So I started here with myself. So this level was me, this was my sister, this was my dad and his siblings. And if they had other siblings, they'd be at this level. Grandparents here and their siblings. Great. And you just keep going back like that. That was my way of doing it. Same thing here. This would be the family tree. This would be the this would be Blanton family tree. This would be the grandfather, Sam. And then this would be Claudie and then Mandy, and it would keep going down like that. One way to set up your file folders for that is, like I said, give each family their own folder. This is where your color coding comes in to help you keep track of what generation you are, if you're in direct bloodline or if you're in siblings. Again, put a cheat sheet in the front so you can remember how you were doing it. The documents method for organization. This is a different way to do it. So you would have a binder or a folder of nothing but census records, a binder or a file folder or a file holder of nothing but obituaries, death records. And then filed in that census or obituary, you would either have it alphabetized or by geography, by location, all of the census records, all of the obituary records, That way, if you knew you were going to be working with census records for the day, you would get your census record binder out, you could find who you were needing. Or who you needed to find the information for, what you needed to look for. This does come in handy when you're doing specific research. You may do a hybrid and kind of mix them all up. Reminders for you as you're doing this. It is an evolving process. You will change as you go, as you grow as a researcher and your collection grows. You may start out and be like, oh, everything's fine in one little binder and I can do the binders with the tabs and it's great. And then very quickly you have 6-7 inch binders that are a little out of control and you need to move to the file folders that are more manageable and easier to take with you. Try out different types, see which one works for you. What do you like? What do you have space for? When I first started out, I had binders. Now I'm in file folders and it is moving very quickly to digital. That way I have it not taking up 3 filing cabinets. Mix and match your stuff. That's the best part of this is you can take things that work for you and make it your own. You can take the binder method as your travel method. You can add all of your obituaries and organizing them in a binder by geography or by family or however works for you and what makes sense to you when you're recording your information. The big thing is, can you find your information quickly? And does it make it more enjoyable? So play around with these, find some ideas that work for you, and hopefully you guys learned something and can get your genealogy under control. If you guys have any questions, please let me know and good luck with your research.